Hi, hello, my name is Sydney. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over all of the series that I am in the middle of and if I think they're one, worth it, and two, if I'm going to be continuing them or not. So I looked over my Goodreads and my bookshelf and figured out every single series that I am currently in the middle of and whether or not they are incomplete series, like the next book in the series isn't out yet, or I have the next book in the series or anything like that. And I have figured out that I have 12 series that I'm in the middle of. So let's just get into this video and figure out if I'm going to continue the series and if I think you guys should read them or not. The first series that I'm in the middle of is the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I actually listened to the first book, The Naturals, on audiobook, and I did really like it, and I believe I ended up finishing the second one too. I also listened to that on audiobook just because I feel like I really enjoyed the first one and I thought, why not jump into the second one? And it was like a very easy listen. I could like do things around the house or get some stuff done for work and not have to like be completely zoned in and focused on just listening to what's going on in the audiobook. And I honestly did really enjoy the first two books, and I am 100% going to be reading the next books in the series. I just don't know when I'm going to get to them. One, I do not have any of them on my actual physical TBR, and two, I just have so many other books that I want to get to before them. If you guys don't know anything about the Natural series, pretty much we're following our main character, and there's like a group of teens who have like not really like special abilities. They're not like superpowers or anything. They're just kind of like heightened skills, I guess, that they're really good at. And pretty much the FBI like hires them in a way to work on unsolved cases. And I've only read the first two, but from what I've read so far, I really enjoyed it. And if you like to listen to books on audiobook, definitely recommend this series to listen to. But yeah, definitely will be continuing this series, and I think that you guys should also read it if you haven't already. Next up, we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I've read the first 3 books in that series. I believe the next book, I'm not really sure if this would be considered a part of the series, but when I looked on Goodreads, it said it was, but it's The Brothers Hawthorne. And to be completely honest, after I finished the 3rd book in this series, I kind of just forgot about the series. It's not that I didn't like it. I definitely really did. I loved all the twists and turns that happened. But I don't know, after I heard about The Brothers Hawthorne coming out, I just didn't really care, to be completely honest. And from what I've seen from other people who have read it, they just didn't think it was that great of a read. So I feel like I really want to focus on books that I either think are going to be very highly rated for me or things that sound super interesting. And The Brothers Hawthorne just doesn't sound that interesting to me. So I don't think I'm going to continue this series. I also saw on Goodreads that there's another book by her that's in this series, but it's Games Untold. I cannot even tell you anything about that because I don't even know. But if you guys don't know what The Inheritance Games is about, pretty much we are following our main character, Avery Grams, and she inherits a bunch of money from this billionaire, and she's actually never met this billionaire before, so it's kind of like a mystery as to why she inherited all of this money from this random dude that she's never met, talked to, seen, heard anything about before. And pretty much they have to or Avery has to live in this man's estate with his family and kind of go all along these clues and little games that he left for his family and Avery. And going along with that is super fun. It's super cute. This is YA, and these books I finished very fast. So if you're looking for a quick and easy series that you can check off, I definitely recommend The Inheritance Games. Personally, I'm not going to finish, I guess, the last 2 kind of in the series just because they don't sound that great to me, and I haven't also heard any great reviews about them, so I think we're going to pass on the last 2 books in this series. The next series I am in the middle of is the Empyrean series, and if you don't know, that is Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm, and obviously Onyx Storm just recently came out this year. I have completed the books that are out currently. I believe we are going to have to wait a pretty good chunk of time until we get another book. I'm just going to sit patiently and wait for that, but 1,000,000% I will be sat for the next book that comes out in this series. And if you haven't picked this book up yet, or I guess this series up yet, you absolutely need to. It's just so good. Okay, Violet and Xaden, so cute. Absolutely love them. And I will say that Fourth Wing was my favorite out of the series so far. The last two that have come out are good. They're not great. I think they could have been better, but that's okay. I definitely believe that Rebecca Yarros will give us more in the following books. But if you don't know what Fourth Wing is, pretty much we are following our main character, Violet, and her like journey through the War College, Besgaeth. But we are following her kind of like journey and how she like gets inducted into the War College, a little bit about her family. There's dragons, there's like magic, and it's just all like so freaking good. It took me a while to decide that I wanted to pick up Fourth Wing, and after I did, I'm just so happy that I ended up picking this up. So yes, I will be continuing this series, and yes, I think that it is worth the read. Next up, we have ACOTAR, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses. It is the series back here. I have read every single one of these books, and I believe, I am pretty sure that Sarah J. Maas is going to be continuing this series. At least I really hope she is. Preferably not in Nessa's point of view, just because I didn't really enjoy the last book in this series. But I would really enjoy seeing something more from Feyre, obviously, and Eileen. I don't really know how to say Feyre's other sister's name, but whatever. If we got a book in her point of view, that would also be great. But I don't know, I just love ACOTAR. I love that world, so I would definitely be very happy and also sad if we got some more books from the ACOTAR world. This is like one of the most popular, biggest series on BookTok, BookTube, just everywhere in the bookish community. But a little bit about what ACOTAR is. I feel like I can't give like too much away, but pretty much our main character, Feyre, ends up like encountering a fae, which is somebody from the fae realm, like a fairy, and it's just good, you know. She ends up kind of like getting into that world, and she's trying to like save her world and just like kind of make peace with everybody. But there's just a lot that happens in this. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of romance in this series, which is amazing for those romance girlies. It's definitely a romantasy, but I definitely will be reading any more books that Sarah J. Maas plans to come out with, if she does. Fingers crossed for the ACOTAR series. And I also think if you guys haven't read this or haven't finished the series, I definitely think you should. I mean, like I said, the last book wasn't my favorite, and I kind of could have done without it. I know that might be an unpopular opinion for some people, but personally, it just wasn't for me, but I think that a lot of you guys will be enjoying this series. Next series, we have the Throne of Glass series, again by none other than Sarah J. Maas, and I've already read The Assassin's Blade. I know there's a couple of different reading orders that you could go with, but I decided to start with Assassin's Blade, and I actually read that last month, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't my absolute favorite. I was expecting way more from this book, but I'm not mad at it. Am I going to continue the Throne of Glass series? 100% I am. I obviously met Selena in the first book I read, and I do love her, and I want to see more from her. I just felt like The Assassin's Blade maybe just like, I don't know, I feel like it was kind of a good introduction, and we got like kind of multiple short stories in that book. It just definitely was not what I was expecting, but it was, I feel like, a good introduction to the world maybe, and some of the characters that we're going to be seeing in the rest of the series. But I feel like I'm like one of the last people on earth to read this series. It's just so intimidating to me. There's so much going on. There's so many books. They get like bigger and bigger as you go, and I'm pretty sure it's like the last two books. A lot of people do a tandem read. That's also very daunting because I can't imagine going back and forth between these two huge, massive books just to like finish them. But we will see if I end up doing that. Again, I'm definitely going to continue this series. And if you guys haven't read The Assassin's Blade, Do I know if I recommend that book first? I don't know. We're gonna see after I continue on with this series. I definitely think you guys should read it, especially if you guys are into fantasy and haven't picked this up yet, just because it is such a huge, popular, beloved book over on all of the bookish content places. So I'm going to be continuing, and I also think that you should give it a try as well. Next up, we have Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates. If you guys don't know about Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, yes, are the relationships toxic? The whole series, all of the books, very toxic, but they are so good, so worth your time. I know some people might not like it just because of the toxicity, but it just reminds me of like Gossip Girl, but I always say it's like set in the UK. So freaking good. I'm currently reading the second Daisy Hates book, and I am very, very close to being done with that. And I can 100% say that I absolutely freaking loved it. 1,000,000% till the day I die. I think that you all should pick up this series if you haven't already. And yes, I will be continuing this series. And I am so, so excited for Daisy Hates number 3 to come out. And I'm also very excited to finish the Magnolia Parks part of things, but I'm also very, very scared. Next up, we have The Housemaid, which I don't really know if I can say that I'm like in the middle of this series, just because there's 3 books out from it right now, and I believe that's like all that's going to come out. But I do know from like what I saw on Goodreads is that The Housemaid's Wedding is like a novella, I'm pretty sure, but I think it came out after all 3 of the books were out. I saw it on Kindle Unlimited and I was so confused. I was like, did I miss something? But apparently it says like it's like 2.5, so what I'm assuming it's a novella just about her wedding. And this is a thriller series if you guys don't know, and I honestly really did like it. I enjoyed the first 2 books more than I did the 3rd book in the series, but I don't think I'm going to be reading this like 2.5 novella like little thing that they have about the wedding. I'm not gonna read it just because, I don't know, like I said, the 3rd book wasn't my favorite. Also, I don't really care too much about the wedding. When I was reading this series, I was more reading it for like the thriller aspect more than like because I really loved the characters. Not saying I didn't like the characters, I just enjoyed the plot and what was going on more than I was like connected to the characters, if you know what I'm saying. I definitely recommend you should pick up this series if you haven't already, but I will not be reading the little novella or whatever it is that Freida McFadden has released. Next up, we have the Dream Harbor series, which I have read the 1st book in, which is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and that is very much like an atmospheric fall time read. And I think it was cute for the time. Was it my favorite? Absolutely not. I just feel like there wasn't a lot going on. It's definitely like a more like quick and easy kind of book if you just like want to get in the fall mood. So maybe later on this year when fall time starts to approach, I feel like this would be a good book to get you in the fall. Like feels aesthetic, obviously Pumpkin Spice Cafe, duh. And the cover is very like fall vibes. And then I started the 2nd book, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, but I ended up DNFing it just because I really was not connected to the characters like at all. And it just like didn't really like catch my interest. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to continue the series or not. I also have the 3rd book in this series. It's The Christmas Tree Farm. And again, definitely giving me like very much Christmas vibes, atmospheric vibes. So maybe I will pick that one up. I just never think about it. So I just feel like I more than likely will not pick up this series. But I mean, if you like very much like atmospheric, fall vibes, Christmas vibe books, then maybe you would enjoy this. And like I said, it'll be a super quick and easy, simple read with not much thought. And yes, these are romance books. I don't know, it just really wasn't for me, and I don't foresee myself picking this up in the future. Next up, we have one of my all-time favorite series so far, and that is the Boys of Tommen series. I have read Johnny and Shannon's part of the series, so that was the first 2 books in this series, but I am moving on to the next book, which is Saving Six, which is Shannon's brother's story, and I am so excited. I actually have it. I don't even know if you can see it. Oh, I have it over here on my TBR for the month of March, and I am so excited to get into this. Also, if you have Kindle Unlimited, they are all on Kindle Unlimited, which is so amazing. Guys, there is rugby. It's a little bit of a sports romance, but mainly just focused on the romance aspect of things. Also, I definitely recommend you guys look up trigger warnings if you are going to pick up this book, just because there are a lot of heavy topics that are covered in this series. Obviously, I don't know what happens in the next books, but from what I've read so far, there are a lot of triggering things that could possibly, evoke some things for some people. So if you think those are anything that could, trigger you, definitely look up trigger warnings. A little bit about this series, I can kind of just give you a little bit about the first two books. So Johnny and Shannon, obviously I haven't finished the series, so I can't really tell you too much about that, but pretty much our two main characters, Johnny and Shannon, go to Tommen College, and Shannon was heavily bullied in the original school that she was at, and she ended up transferring to Tommen College, which is where she ends up running into Johnny, and they kind of are like friends to lovers a little bit, but it's just so cute. I just can't even comprehend how someone was able to write something this good. Now, I know a lot of people really love this series, and I've seen a couple of people not enjoy it as much, which I cannot even fathom because I absolutely love this series. But yes, I will be continuing the series, and I 1000% think you guys need to pick up this series if you haven't already. The next series I am in the middle of is the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I am on book number 3, which I believe is the last book in Lily and Lo's story, which are our main couple for the first 3 books. And then I believe we move on to Rose and Connor, which is one of Lily's sisters. And then I think after that you go into, is it Daisy? Is that her other sister's name? Something like that. It's another flower. But holy crap, guys, I did not expect to enjoy this series as much as I do. I also have the 3rd book, Addicted for Now, in my TBR for the month of March, so I'm really hoping I can get to that. Also, this series is on Kindle Unlimited as well, so that is definitely a plus. And this series also has some heavy topics that are covered, like addiction, so if that's something that you think you might struggle with, maybe look up trigger warnings before jumping into this series. But I had heard a lot about this series on Book Talk and BookTube, and I just didn't know if it was going to be for me, but I ended up picking up the first book, which is just Addicted, and holy crap, guys, I immediately was hooked. I don't know what it was. I just was sucked in. And after I finished the second book, Ricochet, I just really immediately wanted to continue on into the 3rd book. And I'm definitely going to get to this book this month. I am so beyond excited to continue this series. It's just I don't know. There's just so much going on. Our two main characters in the first 3 books, Lily and Lo, are going through addictions. If you guys haven't read it, I definitely recommend you guys picking this up. And yes, I'm going to be finishing this series. Next up, we have Assistant to the Villain, which is back there. I believe right now there are only 2 books out for this, but I'm pretty sure when I was looking on Goodreads, I saw the 3rd one was coming out later on this year, I believe in August. Now, Assistant to the Villain, I did I just feel like maybe it wasn't the right time for me to be reading it. There was just something that didn't grab my attention. It is fantasy, but it's kind of comedic fantasy in a way. I don't know. And there is a little tiny sprinkle of romance, but barely any, at least in the first book. I haven't read the second book, but I don't know. It was a fun, quick and easy read. It just wasn't giving what I thought it would give, and it wasn't giving what I wanted it to give at the time. So who knows? I definitely will be continuing this series because I know a lot of people do like it, and I am interested in trying to see what happens in the following book. If you only like very light world building, a little bit of fantasy and things like that, not super heavy fantasy politics and a bunch of world building, I definitely think this would probably be a good book for you to pick up. But will I recommend? For some people, yes. For others, maybe not, if you really like high fantasy. But I think I definitely will be continuing the series sometime in the future. When, I don't know, just because I have so many books on my TBR that I really need to get to. The last series I am in the middle of is the Chestnut Springs series. I recently, I believe last month, finished the first book in the series, Flawless, and it wasn't my absolute favorite. Did I like it? Yes. Do I recommend? Absolutely. But I am very excited to continue this series because I know Chestnut Springs is a very beloved series for many people in the bookish community, and it's definitely very intriguing to me. I'm pretty sure all of these books have something to do a little bit with cowboy romance. Our first book was a bull rider, and it was really good. I did really like it, but there's just some things that I feel like could have been better, and like I said, it wasn't my absolute favorite, but I do recommend you guys picking this series up just from what I know about the series so far and what I've read. And I also am going to be continuing this series for sure, 100%. Those were all of the 12 series that I am in the middle of. I feel like I probably have like missed a couple maybe that like maybe I like read on my Kindle because I just like looked at what I had on my physical collection of books. But if you guys have read any of these series and think that I should add them to my immediate TBR, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments and why I should pick up these books. And if you guys think that you are going to either start one of these series or continue any of these series that I have mentioned in this video, also let me know in the comments, just because I feel like that's like fun to know that I like maybe inspired you guys to continue a series or start a new series. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of me, make sure to stay tuned for weekly videos, and happy reading!